Hello, everyone. Welcome to UpTimeProductions. I'm Adam, host and the producer of the show. I'm here with my good friend Dominic, co-host and co-producer. Say hi, Dom.
Hello, everyone.
I'd like to take a second to welcome you to the channel. This is going to be the very first recording ever here, and what you see is what you get, basically. So I hope you enjoy as we bring you the first series ever to be recorded on this channel, Marvel vs. DC. Now, Dom, do you want to explain to them what this series is about?
Do I? I would love to. Okay, so this series is about not about who would win in a fight, but just the characters in their own respective aspects.
Exactly.
Like
So
who's a
it's not like a fisticuff.
yeah, because honestly, DC would win every time.
Oh, hey now, you're gonna make a lot of Marvel people unhappy.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, with that said, I hope you guys enjoy Marvel vs. DC. Our first two characters, Loki versus the Riddler. Okay, well, with that said, I'll start off with Loki. A little bit on the backstory of Loki. Now, Loki, pardon, as a character, was introduced in the comic series Venus, issue number 6, Journey into Mystery, issue 85, and the Avengers, issue number 1, all around kind of the 60s, like 62, 63, and 65. Fun fact. And also,
Mm,
another fun fact, the first issue of the Avengers comics is selling for $400. You know that?
that's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. And the Stan Lee signed copy is sold for 3,000.
I like Stan Lee. He's so creative. He wrote his name on everyone else's
Hey,
idea.
hey now. That's not a debate we need to get into. Not quite yet, my friend. Not quite yet at all.
That's
Don't start
related.
that. Don't start this. Anyway, to finish off that, he basically, in the comics at least, when he was first introduced, he was introduced as kind of a side villain, almost as if he was, what's another one? A side character, not really well known, kind of like Bounce Boy from Marvel. Um,
Oh,
I think that's his name, something like that. What are you doing?
nothing.
Okay. Anyway, he was introduced like that until the Avengers comic series when he was introduced as the main villain who brought the Avengers together. Other than that, he's had a few. Obviously, he's had a few on-screen live adaptations of himself, starting with Thor, and then moving on to the Avengers movies and Thor 2. And I mean, I could just list off a bunch of Marvel movies that have him in there, except Civil War, Captain America: Civil War. He was not in there. Other than that, a little bit more on his backstory. Loki, in the beginning, like we're talking Golden Age story arc here, he was a frost giant, one of the number one enemies of the Asgardians, which is where Thor comes from. This should be kind of common knowledge to everyone out there. Obviously, he was adopted by Odin, and then that was it. That was kind of it for the next couple of years. Until he finally started getting jealous of his brother Thor. Now, this is where the movie adaptations kind of cut off because the comics actually talk about how Loki started just was mischievous in all ways. He cut off Thor's girlfriend's hair. He turned it pitch black.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why he's known in the Marvel universe as Loki, God of Mischief, because he's just
Yeah.
maniacal that way. He was
He's a
never,
troublemaker.
yes, troublemaker. So then after that, Odin actually trapped Loki in a tree for hundreds of years. He made him a tree.
Wow.
And the only way he could escape was if someone actually felt sorrow for him and shed a tear next to the tree, which, was kind of mean and an interesting way to tell your son that no one loved him. However, that ended up being true. He was not loved by anyone, and the guard Odin put to, make sure he never escaped was hit in the eye with a leaf and shed a tear by accident, and therefore let Loki escape. And
Wow.
yeah, that's that is something to keep in mind when you're looking at Mr. good old Loki, you know.
Loved by everyone, obviously.
Obviously. Other than that, he's um got an interesting set of characteristics, interesting set of just total and utter absolute, I would say psychopathic tendencies, but they're not really psychopathic tendencies, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. He's showing signs of it, but he's not actually.
Right. So before the whole tree incident, um, Loki, well, he obviously he was mischievous, and in Asgardian culture, quote unquote, they put very high standards on strength and tenacity. Well,
Okay.
Loki knew he had none of these, so he decided to go for the magic and science approach, or in
Mm.
Thor's words, they're one and the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's why he's renowned in Asgardian culture, again, quote unquote, as the most powerful sorcerer in Asgard.
Wow.
He's actually surpassed Odin in sorcery, but obviously he can't beat Odin in a fight. Yeah.
He
So
can beat him in a magic fight.
if it was pure magic, though, like the moment Odin gets close to him, he's smacked.
That's true.
That's one fisticuff Loki would never ever win. Ever win. So, but after that, the tree incident, Odin demoted, quote unquote, Loki from god of mischief to god of evil. After Loki has made multiple attempts to take Odin's throne. Now,
Mm.
one of these famous trying like attempts to take over was called in the comics Odin's Sleep, which is when Loki actually put Odin into a hibernation, which then he would. And this was actually covered in, I think it was Thor, where he would bait the frost giants to come kill Odin in his sleep, and then obviously Loki would come in and save the day and become king of Asgard because Thor was cast away. That's one of
Oh,
his,
okay.
yeah. So that's one of his more known ones. Another one was actually covered in Thor 2 when he um, assembled a mystical evil called the Dark Dimension, from the Dark Dimension, excuse me, and tried to trick the Avengers and other teams of superheroes into, well, trying to fight him and not succeeding. However, Thor, succeeded. So yeah,
Obviously.
that's really all Loki had to offer. Other than that, he's been just very maniacal. He's actually traded place with a couple superheroes and completely ruined some of their chances at winning battles. He's swapped places with Spider-Man, with Hulk, with Thor himself, with Iron Man, and he pulled it off successfully. Fun fact. I mean, Loki's just a maniacal guy in the first place, but to know that
Mm.
he can out magic and outwit Odin himself, that's something to be
Yeah.
said there.
It's a high level there.
What?
You have to be a pretty high level.
Yeah, or have no life to practice magic. But yeah, that's Loki's backstory. Now we can get into Monsieur Riddler's backstory, to learn a little bit more about him before we get into some strengths and weaknesses of both of them. So go ahead, Don.
Okay, so this is the history of the Riddler. He first appeared in Justice issue number 2, not Detective Comics number 2. So his compulsion stems from his father when he got very good scores on not on a high school test, and his dad believed that he had beat him because of that. Now, the Riddler has a compulsive need to prove himself that he is innocent, which also stems from that. So, when he was younger, when he grew when he grew older, early 20s, he opened a crooked carnival booth involving a diabolical puzzle The customers would compete to solve the puzzle. Obviously, the Riddler, being himself, rigged it, and every time he won, he would make them pay a small fee, and he would make money. But
Of
he
course.
grew frustrated. He would grow frustrated with how minuscule the money actually was. So he sort of had a break and announced to himself that he would become a criminal mastermind.
To himself.
And he would,
I like how it's I am going to announce to myself.
yeah, he is a loner. He is the definition of a loner. Had no friends.
The ultimate the ultimate what is it called? The ultimate oh, I can't remember what it's called now.
Anyway, Edward Nigma, aka the Riddler, concluded that he would become, a crime boss. Donning the green costume covered with various question marks, he turned to a life of crime and set out to achieve infamy as the Riddler. At first, the Riddler proved very successful in his crime wave, leaving baffling clues for the law in advance for each crime, and began acting out on the clues. Batman, finding out that the Riddler left clues in advance for his crimes in the future, began trying to catch Edward Nigma, but every time in this issue he would escape capture. The final battle of the comic, the Riddler last riddle asked, "Why is corn so hard to escape from?" Batman
Corn?
concludes that, yeah, corn.
Corn. Okay.
Batman includes that this. I mean, Batman realizes the answer is maize, because corn is also known as maize, which sounds like maize when you say it. So that's pretty smart of him. I would have never gotten that.
I wouldn't have even linked it with a maze.
Yeah, at the scene of the next crime, the Riddler ran into a death trap maze type place where he challenged Batman to follow him, thinking that Batman would die by the bomb that he had put underneath the maze. Sadly, though, Batman caught up to Riddler, but the bomb went off. Batman was able to escape, but the Riddler was thrown into the lake, and everyone thought he died.
Okay.
But after 2 months had passed, the Riddler made a grand entrance again, robbing a banquet and a nationwide puzzle contest, which I don't know why we robbed that.
Miko robbed the puzzle contest.
Yeah, basically.
He
Anyway,
could enter in the puzzle contest and win it.
Yeah. Anyway, the Prince of Puzzlers was finally apprehended when he gave the citizens of Gotham one final clue, which he anticipated would draw huge crowds to the Gotham Museum, where Nigma finally planned to steal some Egyptian artifacts and escape it in a crowd.
Actual,
However, he was
like monetary valued items.
Yeah, I know. Actually, the dynamic duo arrived and captured him before he could make his great getaway. After being paroled from prison, the Riddler returned, wishing for all of Batman's attention, and he grew compulsive with the need to have Batman's full attention on him. So he would help Batman solve cases so that his attention would finally be put on him. So now, with Batman's full attention put on the Riddler sent him a puzzling riddle which convinced Batman that the criminal was out to rob a flawless black pearl from a Gotham millionaire. The dynamic duo seized Riddler with the pearl, only to learn that he had lawfully purchased it with his own money.
Okay. That's something I did not expect to hear.
I know, me either, right? Later, Commissioner Gordon arrested the Riddler as he fled an art gallery with a priceless relic. However, Batman and Gordon were shocked to learn that the villain had lawfully inherited it from his uncle.
Wow. Okay. That's
Apparently
definitely interesting.
He comes from a rich family.
Okay. Which, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Top scientists and whatnot.
Yeah. Anyway, shortly after, Batman and Robin figured out that the Riddler had given them another puzzling clue in the form of their two most recent encounters. The first scene of the encounter being at the millionaire's yacht, and the second at the Pale Gallery. I don't know why the name is Pale. That's just weird in my opinion. Anyway, Batman discovered that that one of the two clues was meant to mislead him, and the other revealed the Riddler's real crime. Batman decided that one of the clues was too easily unraveled, and it must have been a false lead. Thus, the other clue must predict the scene of the Riddler's next crime. Solving the latest riddle, Batman rushed to the scene of the crime and caught the Riddler red-handed in the middle of a robbery, easily putting him in prison because Riddler cannot fight for his life.
So Loki and Riddler are kind of the same in that respect. They have no physical attributes whatsoever.
Nope. Anyway, that was his first comic. Anyway, the Riddler later appeared in The Question.
Ah.
I know. Being conceived to become a big-time villain by a prostitute he met on a bus. I have no idea. Yeah, I know, right? He hijacked it and began asking riddles. And anyone who got it wrong, he would shoot them.
Okay.
And then take their money.
So he became murderous. In
a sense, after he was caught and put in Arkham, when he got out, he became violently insane.
That makes sense. I mean, after being in a psychiatric facility for a while, it tends to do that to you.
Yeah. Yes, it does.
Or not.
Anyway, The Question, a Justice League member, was on the bus, and The Question quickly outwitted the Riddler, actually, by asking him philosophical riddles. Anyway, the Riddler, outwitted, was so frustrated that he let the question go. And then the Riddler, having a nervous breakdown, turned himself in.
All right.
Yeah, that's his second appearance.
That's definitely interesting.
Yeah, I don't know why. He's pretty random. I'm not gonna lie.
It seems like they only made that because they needed a chance to bring back the Riddler.
Yeah, he was meant actually to be a one-time villain along with the Joker.
Oh, that's something interesting.
He was only meant to be a one-time thing, and then a lot of people liked him, so they brought him back.
Such like the Joker.
And
what's the other villains?
Other various villains, like Two-Face. Two-Face was only supposed to be a one-time. Anyway, in his third comic, which I think this is his best plot yet, the Riddler became a host of an underground game show that focused on digging up celebrity dirt.
Okay.
So basically, TMZ.
Yeah, okay. I can believe that.
Yeah. Many famous people that he humiliated later committed suicide shortly afterwards.
I could believe that as well.
Suggesting that perhaps the Riddler did more than just inspire their deaths. In the end, his actions turned out to be a front for his attempts to find a hidden treasure of Gotham City's underbelly.
Right. Now, there was a single movie adaptation, correct?
Single movie adaptation, that is correct, by Jim Carrey.
Ah, yes. The very wild Jim Carrey himself.
Anyway, Batman found out, and actually Batman found the treasure before Riddler did, and this frustrated him and compelled him even more to have an obsession with the Batman. And to this day, the Riddler still plagues the city of Gotham as a murderous, violently insane puzzle guy.
All right. Well, that is that's definitely interesting. I didn't know much about that at all, really.
Yeah,
but,
me either.
Huh?
Me either. I had to do a lot of research. I thought I knew about the carnival, but I didn't know about the bus or the stuff.
Well, with that said, I think it's time for the strength and weakness part of this. So, I'll go ahead and take Loki. So, to start out, Loki has definitely a surplus of power, seeming how he's super magical and everything. But the one thing I do want to say very quickly, even though I've already touched on it, is Loki single-handedly forged the Avengers.
Mm.
That's one of his most that's one of his strongest attributes, I think, is the fact that he could single-handedly have to bring 7 or so heroes together to just defeat him.
He knows his own weaknesses.
Obviously. Other than that, I touched on this a little bit. Loki, because he wasn't, physically strong or anything like that, he purposely sought science, sought answers, and sought to be the most powerful sorcerer in Asgard. And that's exactly what he did. He became and is still considered the most powerful sorcerer in all of Asgard, seeming how he has a plethora of powers. He can shapeshift, he can project holograms. Um and really anything that magic entails, there's not a lot, too much
Yeah.
about what his powers can do. Um However, he does have a little bit of something that Riddler doesn't have, and that's because he's considered an alien or a god or whatever you consider him to be. He is a bit more immune to physical injury, more than obviously
Ah.
regular humans are. In fact, using magic, he has been able to reattach body parts, including his own head. Uh, yeah, fun fact.
Mm.
Yeah, Loki can actually also imbue objects or even beings with specific but temporary powers, meaning he can give powers to people for a small amount of time. He can enhance powers, um, and in fact, Loki is able to magically create rifts between dimensions, which means
Ooh.
he can go through dimensions, or he can grab other objects or grant other objects, I could say, throughout the universe. And the only
Mm.
other person I've heard that can do this so far, as far as I've gone into this, is Doctor Strange.
Doctor. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So that is what definitely one of his stronger attributes. Other than that, the biggest thing that Loki has going for him is his intellect. Loki's intellect is maniacal in all ways, and he outwits almost everyone. Like I said, he can outwit Odin. He's outwitted Iron Man. He's outwitted some of the smartest minds in the Marvel universe. Richard Reed, right? Richard Reed, Mr. Fantastic.
I was like, wait.
Who's that? But he is maniacal, very maniacal. In fact, just looking at some of the stuff he's done, other than forging the Avengers themselves, in fact, he has been able to, I believe it was trick Thanos himself, or not Thanos, excuse me, Galactus, into attacking Earth. He convinced Galactus to do this. Either that or he controlled his mind to do this. I forget which one it is. Either way, he was able to go to a cosmic entity almost as powerful as Thanos himself and say, hey, you should do this for me. And he almost did it. If it weren't for the Avengers, the Earth would be gone.
Wow.
Pardon me. Right. So he has such a maniacal way of thinking. He can outwit nearly everyone in in the Marvel universe. The only thing is, again, looking at his weaknesses, he's got quite a few. He's so maniacal that sometimes he gets tripped up in his own plan. Just look at the movie. You could just look at the movie for that. His entire plan, as far as Thor went, to put Odin to sleep, have the Frost Giants come back, kill Odin, and take the throne, was definitely far-fetched, to say the least. It was an interesting and very maniacal plan, definitely, but it had so many variables that he couldn't account for, such as, would the Frost Giants help him? Would the entire Frost Giant army retaliate once he killed off the Frost Giants that came to kill Odin? He would have to deal with these things sooner or later. So that's one of his weaknesses, is that his maniacal thinking gets him into trouble and into more binds than not.
Any bargain?
What?
more binds than he could bargain for.
Right, exactly. Other than that, again, he has no physical attribute. The best thing going for him is that he's a little bit stronger than a regular human. He's taken bullets, just different things like that. But when it comes to fisticuff with other superhuman people, well, he's not too entirely apt at that. I mean, just
Hmm.
look at the Avengers movie when Hulk picked him up by the feet and just completely wrecked him.
That was one of the most funny scenes I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, and Dominic's not even a Marvel person, people. That's
No, I'm not. I
that's
am all DC, and I saw that, and I was laughing.
exactly that's something to be that's an accomplishment of Marvel if I've ever seen one. Um, Other than that, he's got other weaknesses such as being more powerful than him. Obviously, we've been talking about more strength and more magical substance than other people, and how he's considered to be the most powerful sorcerer of Asgard. But there are still people more powerful than him. Just look at Thor. He's more physically fit, but if we also look at Thanos, well, Thanos has beaten the crap out of Loki multiple times, and that's not because he's more physically fit, if you will. That's because he
Mhm.
uses magic in a more efficient way, perhaps.
Yeah.
So Loki's not the most powerful person in the Marvel universe by whatever means. However, he just might be the most maniacal, and because of that, because of how maniacal his brain works, and how pardon, how uh, let's say intellectual he really is, he is one of the most revered Marvel villains in the entire universe. Because just think about this. He single-handedly forged the Avengers, but he's also been one of their main antagonists throughout the entire universe, and even in the movie universe, he's still their main antagonist, and it hasn't
Mm.
changed. He teams up with people, sure, but that doesn't mean that he is no longer the main antagonist, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So he's got plenty of
He's
strength.
still in the universe, and he's still a big threat.
Exactly. And not only that, whereas, say, let's take some of the X-Men villains for example, Sabretooth, Magneto, Mystique. All of these villains are Earth-based, whereas Loki and just like Thanos, Galactus, they're all multi-universe villains, which means
Mm.
obviously since Loki can travel dimensions, he travels through Earth, Asgard, the frost giant place, I forget what it's called. He can travel, and that makes him a very very large threat to the Earth, especially seeming how again he's been able to talk to Galactus himself, whether it be mind control or be convincing him to go to Earth to try to destroy it. That was all Loki. That was all Loki. And that makes
Wow.
him one of the most revered people in the entire Marvel universe. But
Understandably.
yeah, but with that said, I'm interested to hear what Riddler's strengths and weaknesses are. So take it away, my
Okay.
friend.
So I'm going to start off with his weaknesses. Get the
Okay.
bad parts out. Okay. So obviously in Gotham, criminals are a bit on the eccentric side with their costumes, their plots, and their weapons. Sadly, the Riddler doesn't really have a unique weapon. He just uses regular guns and knives. He doesn't really stand out from regular thugs other than his costume and his personality.
Okay.
So
So
that
so
I
you're
would say
saying
that's
like where Joker has his
like
his
yeah,
cards or his laughing gas, Riddler
yeah,
he's just kind of there.
yeah. He's just kind of there with a gun and a knife usually, and well, I guess the only weapon that you could really say is his staff, but that's really more for his costume than
Right. That's
usability.
legitimately like saying Mr. Fantastic's stretchy arm is a weapon.
Yeah, it's nothing really. Another weakness that we've touched on this a lot. Not a fighter at all. The
Lack of
Riddler,
physical attributes.
lack of anything. He can't jump high. He can't run fast. He can't punch well. He can't last in a fight more than a couple seconds, actually.
Hmm. Okay.
You, yeah. So that's really bad if you're a crime boss. And I would say another one is his pridefulness. You see,
Ah, yes.
he he has outsmarted a lot of people, even Batman, but he leaves Batman to think about it before he actually kills him. Like he had Batman in a death trap for hours and didn't do anything to him until the moment was right. Pride
Hmm.
is probably the only thing stopping him from doing well in his crime syndicate type thing that he has, which is a real disappointment because he has promise. He has promise.
Hmm. Okay.
And obviously when he does succeed with his crimes, he leaves riddles for his next ones.
Which, yeah, I consider that a weakness. That's like That's almost like a petty thief going, "Oh, by the way, I'm gonna be here on this date. I'm not gonna tell you what I'm gonna do, but I'll be there."
Yeah, it's mind numbing that he does this. It serves him no benefit.
Right.
It's crazy that he's successful, well, semi successful, even though he's done terrible things like this.
Right.
And the last weakness I have down for him is his riddle compulsion. His riddles are okay. That's fine to leave riddles. That's his whole thing. But he doesn't do good riddles.
Right. Right.
His, his whole persona is based on riddles. Then make him have good riddles. They're pretty lame. Like in Jim Carrey's adaptation, he had a crowbar and he said, "What do you call a tavern for birds?" And then he hit someone. He said a crowbar.
Oh my. Oh my.
That's more of a joke.
That yeah, but you also have to consider. Sorry for all those DC fans out there. That's like, oh, the Riddler live action adaptation is the best, but Jim Carrey, he's a great actor, no doubt, but he was not made for the role of Riddler.
Not good for that, and I took that into account. So that one's probably the more weaker of his things on his weakness list. It's not that big of a problem because his some riddles are really good. Like, why is corn so hard to escape from?
Right.
And others like. All right, now we're gonna move on to his strengths. Okay, obviously, his intellect.
Of course.
Obviously, his whole thing is his intellect. He actually broke into the Justice League headquarters once.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
All
and
right.
stole some secrets. And he's actually gotten in trouble with the government for stealing some state secrets about the Suicide Squad and others like it.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
That's definitely something.
Yeah. Anyway, also he has, despite him not using unique weapons, he has lots of traps laid out.
Right.
He anticipates everything that the Dark Knight and his enemies could do. That's how. That's how. What's the word I'm looking for? Uh, Patient he is with his equipment. No,
Right.
that's not the right word. That's how maniacal he is.
Ah, yes.
He is. He overthinks things, which is fine because he's really good. Also, he has two friends named Echo and Alpha.
What?
He has two sidekicks, Echo and Alpha.
What? I don't understand the reason for this.
I don't understand the reason for this, but however, they are stronger than him.
I understand the reason
They,
for it now.
and they are better fighters with guns and knives than him.
All right.
Yeah, so and manipulates them. He controls them basically. They have free thought. He's not mind controlling them, but he tells them what to do, and they do it because they believe they can't survive without him.
Oh, it's one of those situations.
That's one of those situations.
Gotcha.
He's a team player, despite his rough upbringings. He's a very good team player.
Rough
He is
upbringings.
yeah. He is friends with every member of the Suicide Squad
Okay,
except for Harley because obviously the Joker and the Riddler don't get along very well
which makes sense. But
because
we'll
they
touch
both.
on that. We'll touch on that
Yeah,
later.
we'll touch on that later. Anyway, obviously the Riddler is probably one of the most successful Batman villains. When you think of Batman villains, you think of probably the Joker, Two-Face, Bane. The Riddler is even on that list because of how memorable he is,
Right.
despite despite his lack of practically everything that makes a good supervillain. We all love him because of his intellect and his death traps,
Right.
and he is a crime boss. He has lots and lots of people to protect him. But in the case that he doesn't, he also can make robots, which is a very little known fact about him.
Oh, all right.
He can make robots practically out of nothing.
All right
He,
then.
one time he made a trash can robot, which was pretty funny to see.
So basically, what you're saying is his strengths are in his mind and his maniacal thinking.
Basically,
Huh.
and is and he's able to twist people's words to make them bend as well.
All right.
All right.
Well,
So that's the Riddler.
all right. Well, with that said, we're gonna take a chance to talk about each other's. So I'm gonna talk. I'm gonna talk about Riddler, and Dominic is gonna talk about Loki and their achievements and overall who is the better villain within their respective universes. So, yeah. Well, Riddler, the biggest achievement the Riddler has in anything he's ever done is that he's outsmarted almost everyone in the DC universe and has the potential to even outsmart Joker himself, who is the most maniacal out of all these people. Um,
Hmm.
I think Dominic hit it on the head when he was pointing out uh, the fact that Riddler broke into the Justice League's quarters, I guess,
Yeah.
and stole intel, and that was by himself, mind you. Loki, he's maniacal, he's stronger, he can probably do a little more fighting than Riddler can, but there's no way he would ever have even the slightest idea to break into the Avengers helicarrier and steal something without help, or at least without a backup plan. Riddler, on the other hand, his brain works in such a way where he can get out of really anything, and get away with almost everything.
I would agree.
And that's one of Riddler's biggest achievements, and that's what separates Loki and Riddler a lot. But other achievements is one of the other ones. I want to say the biggest achievement, but it's not really the biggest achievement, more as it is a common one. Is that he never really goes away. He's always on the Justice League's mind. If you compare that to Loki, Loki will have a big battle, and then or set up a big battle, have the battle, and then kind of drop off the face of the earth for a while. We see this in the movies with Thor. We see this in the movies with Avengers. We've seen this in the comics multiple times between Thor and the Avenger battles. Riddler, on the other hand, both in the live adaptation and the comics, he never really goes away. I mean, he'll do some petty thieving now and again, and then he'll make a pretty spectacular plan. But he's always in the back of the mind. And Dominic even touched on this a little bit when he was talking about, I asked you to list me 10 Batman villains, and Riddler's immediately pops up because he's just there. He's that memorable. He may not have, led some all-out attacks or anything by himself or even with help, but he's always there. He's one of Batman's main set of villains, and I think that's definitely an attribute that Loki can't even take from him. So, yeah, Dominic, what do you have to say about Loki?
Okay. For one, in the comics and in his movie, I love how he just presents himself to people.
Mm.
calm, calculated, not really worrying too much, even though he should, about his enemies.
Agreed.
One of his achievements is being a more powerful in magic than Odin. Odin's a
Yeah.
god alien, and he Loki isn't even from the same planet or the same species. Yeah, he somehow mastered Odin's people's magic, which is mind blowing. It's like reading a foreign language, but Loki is the best at it.
Right, right.
Yeah. Uh, he invaded the Earth with an alien race, which Riddler has not done. Riddler has not held the city. Loki has.
This is true.
Loki, this is true. Loki has destroyed the helicarrier. It's like if that's like their main base of operations for the Avengers, and he destroyed it.
Right.
Even though he may have lost to the Avengers, he still puts up a good fight, in my opinion. He's now Loki obviously isn't always in people's minds. However, he is still a constant threat 24/7.
Always.
He may not be in people's minds, but he's out there working his next plan, always ready for the next one. Even after he loses multiple times, he's waiting and ready for the next one, which persistence is a good quality, especially if you're a crime alien thing. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I think Loki with his magic and his mind combined can do amazing things, even though he may not be so strong with his fist, but he's smart and he can control people and twist their words to make them do it as well, which is pretty amazing, in fact. He convinced someone to invade the planet. You said, I forget his name.
Galactus.
Yeah, Galactus, which is pretty amazing because Loki is a little pleb. When you think of Loki, you don't think of this buff guy. You think of a nerdy.
You think of the Loki that's in the movies, just kind of
Yeah, that's true.
scrawny.
Yeah, scrawny looking. And I don't think I have never seen him with a friend.
Well, I mean, if you could call his allies friends, perhaps.
Mm, I don't consider allies friends. I consider his like friends.
Close companions, friends.
Yeah, yeah. But in the fact that he's been able to do all this stuff alone, it's mind blowing to see what he would do with a team of people just like him working to destroy the Avengers.
Something like the Suicide Squad.
Like the Suicide Squad. I would love to see Loki in a sort of Marvel
Version of the Suicide Squad.
He works very well with others, and he was pretty close to actually winning in the first Avengers.
Very.
Yeah, and that's my take on Loki.
All right. Well, all in all, I think that both of them definitely have their strong points. Like I said, Loki, his strongest points are probably that he has mastered sorcery of a different species, and he's single-handedly forged the Avengers.
Yeah,
Riddler,
that's pretty
I
amazing.
mean, he outsmarted almost everyone in the DC universe, and by himself, mind you. That's something that Loki can't take in attributes. Now, out of the two, picking a winner within the respective universes, I would have to do Riddler. Riddler is just more maniacal. He's more, if you will, brave to take on the Justice League or even any part of the Justice League by himself. The only person that Loki's willing to take on by himself is Thor, and that's because he knows his fighting patterns, or he knows how to manipulate him in a certain way. That's something that's something that the Riddler does a lot better than Loki. Now, if we were to pin Joker versus Loki, that's something that I would say Loki would win.
Loki would definitely win.
Because Loki has... So here's how I'm looking at it, is that the Riddler it does things, but it hasn't caused like a big thing to make the Justice League move on it. You know, certain small things where particular characters from the Justice League go to defeat him, to beat him up a couple times, throw him back in prison,
Yeah.
whatever. But he's just more maniacal. He's smarter than everyone in his universe. Loki, on the other hand, well, he's maniacal, but he's caused more damage, if you will. He has caused the Avengers
He's
to
more.
move. What?
Yeah, taking over. What city was that in New York?
Oh, yeah, I think it was New York City.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, very, very. But putting those two to comparison, Riddler would still win because we're not looking, when it comes to Loki and Riddler, we're not looking at how much damage they cause. Obviously, they're going to cause their own particular amount of damage because they're both different. We're looking at their specific powers, their likenesses, and their likenesses are their brains. And when it comes to their brains and their intellect and their maniacal thinking, Riddler takes the cake. Totally. But
Totally,
again,
I agree with you.
yeah, but again, if we were to pin Loki up against the Joker,
And
Loki
the
and the
fist,
Joker have
right?
made their respective Avengers and the Justice League move so many times, but I don't think either of them can outsmart the Riddler. Period.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Riddler's more grounded in his insanity and
Right.
more calculated.
But again, you'll have to go to other YouTube channels to see if they have a actual fisticuff fight versus Loki and Riddler. Here, I'm just looking at their respective likenesses within their respective universes. And
Right.
this is how I see it. We've gone through a lot of the background, a lot of strengths, a lot of weaknesses, and Riddler still comes out on top. Looking at specifically the likeness between the two. So
Right.
with that, I think this first part has been a success. What do you think, Bob?
I think you did very well with your research, and I think that the commentary was very back and forth, and we got to hear a good on both sides.
All right. Well, with that said, then I hope you all enjoyed listening to us talk about two very different but very similar characters from two very different universes. If you really did enjoy, please leave a like, subscribe for more of this. We are planning to put one of these up every Saturday, and trust me, we'll let you know if anything changes. But with that
We
said,
will.
sorry,
I said we will let them know.
we will definitely.
Yeah.
But with all that said, remember to again like, subscribe, give us suggestions, because we're just gonna keep picking two random characters until someone suggests something.
If there's two that you guys really want to see,
Right.
what our opinion is on them, we will totally do those.
Yes, and remember it has to be one Marvel, one DC, because if they're both from the same universe, well, I mean, I guess we
Then
can.
that's
I guess
the
we
thing.
can do that, but then at some point it's going to turn into who would win in a fist to fist.
Yeah,
We don't.
that's not the intention of this.
Yeah. But with all that said, I will wish you another welcome to Uptime Productions. I'm Adam. I've been the host. I've been the producer of the show. My friend Dominic,
And I'm Dom, the co-producer.
co-host of the show. We
Oh,
will, and we wish you a very happy Saturday. Hopefully, unless this gets posted on Sunday. So yes, bid you a fair adieu.